Hello, welcome to our DLD webinar today. I can see there's a few people joining us. I'll just give it a few moments whilst everyone else connects. My name is Sam. I head up the marketing here at DLD. Joining us, we've got Celestine Corley, so head of programs and assistant principal here. And she's going to be running through the IFP, the International Foundation Program, and our BTEC program here and what we offer at DLD. I should just say that this session will be recorded. So if you do miss anything or you want to recap, the YouTube link will get kind of circulated. And there is a Q&A function as well, or a chat function within Zoom. So as Celestine's presenting, if you have any questions, do feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'll pass across to you, Celestine, and we'll get going.
Perfect. Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. The first program that I'm going to talk through is our International Foundation program. So with all of the pathways, there are core components that all students must complete. So they are comprised of Essential Maths 1 and 2, Academic Skills and Research and Personal Development. The Essential Maths is broken over 2 semesters. So Essential Maths 1 is studied from September to December and assessed in December. And then Essential Maths 2 is covered January to May and assessed at the end of May. Academic Skills and Research is a research project that students undertake on a topic of their choice. They look at how to research a topic. They look at how to put together research objectives. They develop literature review, discussion and analysis, and then at the end of that, they present their findings. And then the last core module is personal development. So this is all about looking at the transferable skills that they'll need for university or careers. So things around communication skills, problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, collaboration. There's assignments that will be focused on all of those skill sets. Within personal development as well, they also will have a core element at the beginning of the year that focuses on UCAS and personal statement development. So in terms of pathways, we have a range of pathways from the arts, maths, biomedical science, business and economics, computer science, engineering, fashion management, and we can also offer a fintech module, which is computer science and economics. So why might you study IFP at DLD? So obviously from the previous slide, you can see there's a variety of programs. So students can tailor their pathway to their strengths. They can then use that to help themselves access further education in terms of undergraduate programs or maybe moving on to a career. That brings me on to thinking about career focus. So again, you build a skill set. So within your pathway, you will build the skills that you require to have a good understanding and a good comprehension of what's required to study that program at university, but also within the core modules like academic skills and research and personal development, you're developing lots of transferable skills that you're going to need to take you into that career in the future. Alongside their pathway, their chosen pathway, all students will also study English. So all of our students on the foundation program will have academic English. This is obviously a requirement, not only for us, but for university. So all students will need to have a level of English to access undergraduate programs at university. So we combine this within the pathway to ensure that the students have everything that they need to access the course that they want to pursue at university. And I'll talk a little bit more then in the future slides about the partnerships that we have with universities and the destinations that students have gone to over the last number of years. So an overview of our success. So last year we had 45% of our students achieve a distinction. So that's 75% and above across all of their modules and overall within their chosen pathway. Of those students, again, 45% of them were offered Russell Group University places. Many of those took up those offers and are now at those universities studying their chosen undergraduate degree. We also had several offers from King's across our advanced maths, social science, biomedical science, computer science. Across all of those pathways, we had offers. Um, and then finally, with our art and design, we had unconditional offers from Kingston University for students to go on to study fine arts and interior design. So the course has been really successful and it's really helped students to gain access to the universities that they want to achieve, that they want to go to. So in terms of destinations, so as I said, Kingston, we've had lots of students go to Royal Holloway. City is quite popular. Then for our creative subjects, we've had the IFM in Paris, we've had Ravensbourne University, we've had UAL, and then as you can see, Exeter. And another partnership that we've developed this year is Luis University in Rome in Italy. So they are also willing to receive some of our students for the programs that they offer there. In terms of typical questions that I'm asked for IFP, so IELTS. So to gain access to our foundation program, students should have an IELTS of 5.0, and ideally in the reading and the writing component, they should have 5.0 as well. This is because it's a fast-paced course. It's an accelerated program delivered within 1 year. So they need to have the level of English to be able to cope with the demands of the course. Further to this, they need to be able to build upon that because most universities require 6.5 overall and 6.0 in the subtests. And specifically King's, they actually require 7.0 overall for a good few of their courses with 6.5 in the subtests. So, you know, students still need to develop that level of English language over the course of the year. In terms of having studied GCSE, it's not a compulsory, but it would be beneficial if you had studied, let's say, business and economics at GCSE. That would really help you on a business and economics IFP pathway because you'd have a foundational knowledge of what to expect. However, in September, October, within those courses, we do go over the basics again so that any students who haven't studied the subjects before are not at any disadvantage. The other questions I'm asked is about, does Cambridge and Oxford accept our IFP? Unfortunately, they don't. This is obviously due to the high volumes of applications that they get on an annual basis. However, I think you've seen from my previous slide that we have an excellent variety of universities that do accept our IFP. And again, I mentioned that the list that was on the previous slide, it's not an exhausted list, so there are others that I didn't have space to put. In terms of preparing for your UCAS application, in September, every student will be given a UAT, which is a university admissions tutor, and that UAT will work one-to-one with each student on their application, from personal statements to helping them choose appropriate university options, and ultimately help then putting their reference and ensuring that the application is sent on time. As I mentioned earlier, in personal development, that core component, the teacher there will also help them with their personal statement. And they also have a tutor who they see Monday to Friday for registration, who they can also ask for help, support, and guidance for their personal statement. So there's lots of people within the college who can um, give advice, give opinion, and support that student through their application process. In terms of the comparison between A level and IFP, so I think A level IFP is suitable for those students who prefer the kind of semesterized approach. So September to December, you study is Unit 1 across all pathways. That's examined and results are given in December. In January to May, they study Unit 2. Again, that's examined at the end of May, and then results are given towards the end of May, June, and then students have the opportunity to retake in June to improve their grade. If they don't improve their grade, they keep whatever the best grade for each paper. So I think when you compare that to A level is studied over 2 years. They have maybe 3 exam papers per subject, and all of that is assessed at the end of the second year. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, on a student on an A level exam morning where they have to remember 2 years worth of content, where for an IFP student, it's completely semesterized and it's delivered over 1 year. So once they've achieved the grades they wanted in the first semester, then they move on to thinking about the second unit and the upcoming summer exams for that. So it's very, I think, much more manageable for somebody who maybe has stress alongside on the run up to exams, or maybe they're a little bit anxious around exams. That stepped approach and that assessment method within IFP can be very helpful. The next program then I'm going to talk about BTEC. So what is a BTEC? So it's a specialist qualification as an alternative to A level and GCSE. The difference between A level, GCSE and a BTEC is your BTEC is much more hands-on, it's much more practical in terms of what's been delivered within lessons. It's not just theory. There's a lot of real world application, especially through the coursework units that they do, where students are encouraged to choose businesses that they're interested in or industries that they're interested in. I think key importance here is that 95% of UK universities accept an IFP, and over the years, over a quarter of students have at least one BTEC, and over a third of students have only a BTEC qualification going into university. So that means that they've studied a BTEC, the equivalent to 3 A levels. So it's widely accepted by universities, and it's a very popular choice for our students here at DLD. So what BTEC subjects do we offer? So at upper school, so at GCSE level, we offer esports. And then in sixth form, we have a business 3 A level equivalent, and then digital media, a 2 A level equivalent. And then there's just a breakdown between the levels, but I think most important thing to take away from levels 1 to 3 is level 1, 2 is GCSE level, level 3 then is your A level, your sixth form option. So again, how is it different from your GCSE? So broadly, your BTEC is project based. Over the course of 2 years, particularly at sixth form, they could have maybe 9 units of coursework. So that's very practical, very hands-on, very real world, where they get to choose the industries or the examples or the businesses that they want to know more about. The benefit of that obviously is that it gives them more of a real world understanding. It prepares them for university and for employment. In terms of our highlights for last year on our extended diploma, 100% of business students and 100% of creative digital media students achieved a distinction and merit grade. So that is our A level, three A level equivalent. And then our extended certificate, we had 100% pass rate with 66% of grades awarded distinction or above. And that's a one A level equivalent that we offer at sixth form. In terms of your level two, internally they have two components, so component 1 and 2. They are allowed to submit this work twice, but it has to be within the windows. So there's a January window and then there's a final summer, May, June window. Typically, they'll work on component 1 again from September to December, and then component 2 will be completed in the January to May time of the year 1 of the programme, which then means the component 3 will be completed in the second year of the GCSE, and then again that can be assessed in the January and May June window. Just to come back to some level 3, so what it looks like in terms of assessment. So internally, which is coursework units, so they have assignments. There are 9 internally assessed units, and again, they're given an assignment brief, which they have a set deadline for. Within these assignments, they have the opportunity, as I said, to choose their own industry, their own examples, so that when they're researching and preparing their assignment, they're doing something that is appealing to them and something that they're interested in and learning more about. And ultimately, it should be something that is linking into what they want to do in the future. All grades are checked by the teachers, and then the lead IV within each department double checks the work to make sure that it's to the required standard of the exam board. And then a sample of work then is selected by the exam board, and then we send that off for verification by them as well. In terms of external units, so typically on the level 3 program, students will have 4 external units. So these could be controlled assessments or exam based. Typically, they will do 2 of these in the first year, and they will sit them in January, with the opportunity to retake them in May if they're not happy with their grade. Again, they keep their best grade between the January and May sitting. And then in year 2 of the programme, they do the final 2 external units and the same process in terms of assessment. So January, May, June, and then they can retake in the May, June to get a better grade. And if they don't improve the grade, they keep the best outcome of that paper. So in terms of preparing students, so there's been surveys by businesses that to say that they prefer students with a BTEC qualification. So 74% of businesses said that they prefer students with a BTEC qualification, mainly because they arrive to the workplace with the required skill set. So they haven't just learned about something, they've actually applied it in theory and in practice, and have been able to utilize those skills to gain a job in an industry that they have chosen. Again, students have chosen it because of that practical experience, that hands-on experience. And as I've mentioned already, 99% of universities said that they were willing to consider a BTEC qualification. So I think the most important thing to think about is what would benefit the student in terms of how they learn best. What are their learning styles in terms of assessment? Do they like that continuous assessment method where through coursework they know exactly where they're at the end of a unit, and then they can build up their overall grade as they complete the units? Or is it that exam focus where at the end of 2 years they feel that sitting an A level is the best option for them? Again, some of our destinations here, we've had students go on to a variety of universities. So for our business, we've had business management, we've had real estate, we've had finance, entrepreneurship, international business, international marketing, international relations. Whereas with our creative digital media, we've had animation, sports design, film and media studies, marketing, journalism. So there's a wide variety of undergraduate programs that students have gone on to achieve. And what I would say as well within the media specifically, they are learning a lot of skills in terms of how to use software. So things like Final Cut Pro, Adobe InDesign, Photoshop. They're learning every day how to use those software so that when they go to university, they are hitting the ground running. They're not learning, they know exactly what they need to do. And in terms of what they might cover within those subjects, there's magazines, documentary, short films. Last year they broadcast one of our school events. So again, lots of on the job learning about how things could go wrong at a live event and what they need to look out for and problem solve for to avoid things going wrong. That is everything from me. But if you do have any questions, I have my email address there on the board or on the screen, sorry. And feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Brilliant. We'll pause there for a second because I say we have got some time for some questions if anyone on the webinar has anything. Just a couple that we had through in advance, Celestine. You mentioned in the slides on BTEC about the results we got. We got a lot of distinctions and a lot of merits. For everyone on the call, what's the sort of A-level equivalent of a distinction?
So a distinction will be the equivalent to an A grade. Then a merit will be the equivalent to a BC grade, and then a pass is about a D grade if you compare it to A level.
Yeah.
So if I look at those slides that I've just went through, like a lot of students have got the equivalent to an A grade or a B grade at A level, which is really, really good.
Yeah, so some really, really strong results there. So, and I imagine a lot of kind of agents and certainly kind of internationally, parents are kind of very familiar with A levels, but perhaps less so with the International Foundation Program and kind of BTEC qualifications. So, and we've obviously seen an increase in terms of universities accepting those, and obviously in your slide deck you highlighted that businesses also prefer students having some of those
Yeah.
kind of BTEC qualifications. Since you've been at DLD, have you seen an increase in kind of the students' kind of interest in these courses? And what would your advice be to perhaps kind of parents or agents who are perhaps still a little bit unsure about these courses?
Definitely. I think I've been at DLD, I think 10 years now, and I actually introduced the BTEC business course here. And, it's growing so much over that time. And students are now coming asking about the qualifications and how it does differ to A levels and where it can get them. And I think the benefit of students being forthcoming is we can talk about how they learn best. So if you have a potential student or a child at home who maybe really works themselves up in terms of ahead of an exam and they feel very anxious, very stressed, consider the BTEC because 9 of the units that they're going to do, particularly at sixth form, are coursework based. So they're supported in class by their teacher as they complete these pieces of coursework. Um, at the end of each unit, they find out whether they've achieved a pass, a merit, or a distinction within that unit of work. They're given a grade tracker where over time they'll see their overall grade build up to maybe a DDD, which is the equivalent to three A levels after 2 years. But they can see that. Whereas I think at A level, they're getting a summative assessment every 2 weeks. They're getting a grade on that. They're getting some feedback on that. But ultimately, it comes down to one day in June for an A level, whereas with the BTEC student, it's much more progressive, it's much more continuous over time.
Yeah, thanks for that, Celestine. Yeah, it really makes sense. Um, we haven't had any other questions come through, so I think what we'll do is we'll leave it there. As I mentioned at the start, for anyone who joined a little bit late, we will be kind of circulating the recording. So if you did miss anything or you want to recap, you'll be able to access that on YouTube. We do have a virtual tour as well coming up of DLD. That will be next Wednesday. So do go onto the DLD website and you can register for that in advance. And as I say, if you do think of any questions kind of following this webinar, hopefully you grabbed kind of Celestine's email, or as I say, you'll be able to see it in the recording. Thank you very much, Celestine, for joining
Thank
us.
you.
And yeah, as I say, hopefully we'll see some of you at DLD soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.